I mean, a homicide trial, especially when you're dealing with self-defense, is so heavy. And there was just something kind of like life affirming about watching the prosecutor get chewed out for that because I
because it's never anything you would have done as a prosecutor, right?
I was so staggered. Like because it wasn't the first time. It was going back in and then defending it. I was absolutely floored. It's one of the most egregious things I've ever seen, and I was shocked. And I wanted the judge to just keep yelling and be like, go get your checkbook. I'm sanctioning you. Report yourself to the bar and also go fuck yourself, like all of the things. So it was actually cathartic to see the judge actually call out wrong is wrong, and it's needed. Prosecutors can't just do whatever. And they seemed so smug from my perspective, they seemed so smug in the way that they were like, well, Your Honor, that's not what we're doing. It's like, but that's what you did. We all just watched it.
Right. Everyone saw.
And you're 100% correct with that. I think that there's, and, Judge said it himself. Part of the hearing that I talked is, you guys have been getting fast and loose with things for a while. And it's whether or not somebody challenges somebody on something. But there are so many, and I don't want to just turn into bashing the office, things like that, because
of course,
I tried to be classier than that. But there were just a lot of concerning things, like Richie McGinniss, for example, who's had an attorney from the beginning of this, was contacted directly and not through his attorney. He was not properly served. He was served via like email or something. That's not proper service. There were tons of people who were, and that's just like practices that they've gotten away with doing for so long. Like the only reason there were some people who was more than one individual who was subpoenaed by both of us. And the only reason they came is because we subpoenaed them, because they weren't subpoenaed correctly the first time. They're like, well, this isn't a valid subpoena, but if you want me to go, I'll go, that we talked to. So.
Were you guys shocked seeing Photochad? Sorry, speaking of the prosecutor's office.
Well, with Photochad with Nathan, so we had him.
I love that you know his nickname, by the way.
Oh yeah. He well, and that's the other thing is, I'm not promoting myself really with anything here. If people want to do something to support somebody, I think, I didn't lose my job over this. Nate told the truth, and he did. If people want to support somebody, I don't know much about him personally. I don't know anything about his politics. I don't know anything about that. All I do know is that he was fired. He basically got put on leave for telling the truth at a trial. And I don't think that anybody should have to face that. So, if people are looking for somebody to support, I would consider, looking at him or other people in similar situations who, who do something where they tell the truth and, this type of backlash against it. Because right. I wasn't going to lose my job over this. This is my job.
Yeah.
So
I have a question about you were talking about earlier how there's several ways to lose a witness, and one of them is being mean to a witness. When it came to Nathan DeBruin, that for me was one of those where for me, I basically was like, all right, like I was trying to give the prosecution the benefit of the doubt in terms of character and whatnot. And I'm not going to ask you to comment on it. But for me personally, his testimony was when I was like, F these guys, I'm done. But what was the jury reaction, if you remember, if they did react at all, when they were talking about Kraus was cross-examining him, and he was basically saying like, well, we didn't ask you to change your statement. And he's like, yes, you did. Mm-hmm. Do you remember if there was any kind of a reaction to that? Was the jury paying attention? Or because for us, we were like, what is going on? Like we were going nuts.
Yeah. That was definitely a situation that people were paying attention to. I wouldn't say it was a situation where people were taking notes.
Okay.
There was a lot of, you're seeing heads directly going back and forth between looking at the people. But Nate is also, he had been subpoenaed he met with the state, and like he said on, his interview, and I think on during his testimony, he came and met with us. He was at first very, apprehensive because he got our subpoena from us and was angry, I think, because he thought that we were the prosecutors trying to get back with him, if I remember correctly. But, you know, giving him the opportunity to tell his story the way he wanted to was, I think, the important thing for Nate. And I also don't think people realize how crazy it is that he brought his own exhibits. Like, and I had, you know, I had about 1 million jobs during the trial. You know, basically, who was doing? If you had a question, who was doing this? It was probably me. You know, but so that day, you know, managing witnesses and stuff, had spoken with his attorney beforehand. He had mentioned to me that Nate was going to be bringing pictures in. I was like, okay, well, maybe like a couple printed off or something. No, he came in with like 40 professional, like they were big. There were some huge ones. Like, he didn't like the way he was treated, and he did something about it. And I admire that about him.
Yeah.
None of us liked the way he was treated. He was such an endearing individual, and he seemed very linear when he was testifying. It's like, no, it's A, B, C, D, and that is what I'm telling you.
Well, and that's how the jury, I mean, the masks were hard to tell. I mean, not everybody was wearing masks. The people who wore masks usually wore masks every day. Some of those people, you know, were hard to tell, but I think they thought it was coming across like he was trying to beat up on him.
Yeah.
That was the sense I got from them, is that was the perception they were getting.